please all stand for the national anthem. I declare this ceremony open. Please all be seated. Good afternoon. Guest of honour, Ms. Indrani Raja, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office, Second Minister for Finance and Second Minister for National Development. Keynote speaker, Professor Ivy Ng, Chief Executive Officer, Singapore Health Services. Professor Eugene Washington, Chancellor for Health Affairs, Duke University, and President and CEO of Duke University Health Systems. Mr. Go-Yu Lin, Chairman of the Duke-NUS Governing Board. Mr. Tony Chu, Founding Chairman of the Duke-NUS Governing Board. Duke-NUS Governing Board members, Professor Thomas Kaufmann, Dean Duke-NUS, Deans and Faculty, Class of 2023, and your families, distinguished guests, friends and colleagues. Welcome to Duke-NUS graduation and hooding ceremony. My name is Ian Curran, Vice Dean of Education. I am your Master of Ceremonies. To start this afternoon's programme, I'd like to invite the Dean of Duke-NUS, Professor Thomas Kaufmann, to present his welcome address. Dean Kaufmann, please.
I'm going to ditch the hat. So good afternoon, guests of honor, Ms. Indrani Raja, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office, Second Minister for Finance and Second Minister for National Development, our keynote speaker, Professor Ivy Ng, Group CEO, Sing Health, Professor Eugene Washington, Chancellor for Health Affairs, Duke University, Mr. Go-Yu Lin, Chairman of the Duke-NUS Governing Board, Mr. Tony Chu, Founding Chairman of the Duke-NUS Governing Board members, distinguished faculty, guests and colleagues, Class of 2023, and your families. Welcome everyone to the graduation ceremony for the Class of 2023, and thank you for all joining us today to celebrate what is a very happy occasion for all of us. I want to begin with my heartiest congratulations to the class, and let's give them a round of applause. This is their day. And let me ask for a second and maybe a bigger round of applause for the families and loved ones who supported us through all this. Can we have the families and loved ones stand up? We can see you. They're up. Most of them are up there. You can't see them, but great. Well done. And finally, I also want to acknowledge the many mentors who played important roles in teaching and encouraging the class during their academic journeys, including members of our clinical and education faculties, along with our scientists and research mentors. They all deserve to be recognized for helping nurture this next generation of doctors and researchers for Singapore. So can I have all of the faculty over here and the mentors stand up so we can acknowledge you as well? Great job. Thanks to all for your great work. So let's move on now to the stars of the day, which is class of 2023, which I see where you are. I've got a good view of you, so I know where you're located. Together, you've proven to be a determined and resilient group whose experiences at Duke-NUS have been undeniably shaped by COVID-19. You know, as we're moving on from the pandemic, it seems kind of tiresome sometimes to continue to talk about COVID-19 at these festive occasions. But I think it's particularly important to remember and acknowledge the challenges that were faced by these graduates who are receiving their degrees today. This will be our fourth group of graduates whose educational experiences were significantly impacted by the pandemic, and we still have at least 3 more cohorts to come whose education time happened under the cloud of COVID-19. So it really illustrates the dimensions and the real enduring impact of the pandemic on education and obviously every other facet of our society. PhD students faced a significant time when they couldn't come into the lab to work on their projects. And the MD class of 2023 really endured perhaps the most significant disruption of any of our medical school classes from COVID. They were first-year students in the classroom when the pandemic hit Singapore in January 2020. And at that time, there was a lot of anxiety and really a lack of understanding for what this was about and what we were dealing with. Indeed, as the class will remember, your curriculum, learning plans, clinical training, and exams were completely disrupted and discombobulated. Yet, here you are. You hit all the benchmarks, you passed all your assessments, and you're highly deserving of the MD degrees that you'll receive shortly. Furthermore, you are certainly well prepared and ready to enter your PGY1 clinical training, which will start soon. Accordingly, I look forward to presenting you with your degrees here on stage in a short while, together with our guest of honor, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office, Ms. Indrani Raja. We're very grateful to Minister Indrani for gracing us with her presence today. As Second Minister for National Development, overseeing the care pillar of the Forward Singapore exercise, Minister Indrani has been active in promoting programs to enable Singaporeans to lead dignified and fulfilling lives as we chart the way out of the pandemic. She's also championed policy changes to tackle hidden gender biases and to break down stereotypes to improve the lives of women, a cause that she's been passionate about since her early days as a leading litigation lawyer and now senior counsel and politician. And she is certainly a powerful role model for women across Singapore. So thanks for being here today. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge our keynote speaker today, Professor Ivy Young, who, as Group CEO of SingHealth, the largest public hospital cluster in Singapore, is no stranger to anyone here today. As our governing board member and partner in academic medicine, Ivy has been a tireless supporter of Duke-NUS. And on behalf of myself and everyone else associated with the school, we're so very grateful, Ivy, to your support through all these years. So thank you very much. Ivy's talents and leadership have been uniquely valuable in propelling the successes and growth of our school and academic medical center, and I'm certain that the students will be quite inspired by her keynote address. There's another celebrity in the audience today that I'd like to acknowledge, and that is the Chancellor for Health Affairs at Duke University, Professor Eugene Washington, who's right here in the front row, and is attending the ceremony today with his wife, Marie, who's over here in Duke Blue, I see in the second row. Gene's been a member of our Duke-NUS governing board since 2015, and for those of you who've been around for a while, Gene's a very familiar figure at our graduation ceremonies. Chancellor Washington has been pivotal in strengthening the Duke-NUS partnership, and the work he's done as Chancellor and as governing board member will enable us to continue to build upon the strong bonds between Duke and Duke-NUS. As he prepares to step into his new role as full-time faculty member and grandfather, we would like to thank Chancellor Washington for his invaluable contributions to Duke-NUS over these past 8 years. Thank you very much, Gene. Finally, I want to acknowledge one more person, and that's our Master of Ceremonies and Vice Dean for Education, Professor Ian Curran, who today is taking his last turn overseeing our graduation celebration. Ian will be leaving us soon to take on an exciting new position at the Australian National University. We'll miss Ian very much, and I want to thank him for all his contributions during his more than 5 years here. Please join me in thanking Ian for his excellent work at Duke-NUS and wishing him the best at ANU. Ian, well done. Thanks very much. And I'm sure you're going to do great in your next posting. Okay, so after all that, now let's turn to the main reason we're here today, and that's our graduating class. So today we'll award 74 MD degrees, bearing the names and endorsement of two world-leading universities, Duke University and the National University of Singapore. This is our largest group of MD graduates so far. For the graduating medical students, most of you will be moving full-time, and I mean that literally, into the SingHealth Duke-NUS Academic Medical Center, as you will embark on your PGY1 training, serving as house officers in the dynamic ecosystem of our AMC, where you have the privilege of training in an environment with high standards of clinical excellence, supported by outstanding clinical mentors. And today we're also celebrating 10 PhD recipients from our integrated biology and medicine and quantitative biology and medicine programs. Within this group, 2 of you will also be receiving MD degrees, successfully emerging from the 7 to 8+ year course of our combined PhD program. So special kudos to those 2 for your fortitude and determination. And for the first time today, we'll also be awarding PhD degrees to 5 graduates from the clinical and translational sciences track. We started this program in 2018 to provide an opportunity for practicing medical specialists and other health science professionals to obtain high-quality, in-depth research training. These individuals pursued their PhDs while at the same time balancing demanding clinical schedules, not to mention busy family lives. We anticipate that this additional research training and expertise will allow them to assume key roles leading clinical and translational research across our AMC. So let me close now with a few words specifically for the class of 2023. So you're graduating into a new dawn, into a post-COVID era that calls for us to rethink how we deliver care that truly addresses the needs of our population. It's not just future pandemics that we need to be concerned about, but also the needs of Singapore's aging population, which is expanding rapidly. At the MOH work plan meeting this week, Health Minister Ong clearly set out a path for the future to continue high-quality acute care, while at the same time shifting our focus to the aging population and to delivering population health through the Healthier SG initiative. Moving emphasis away from the acute hospital setting and into the community portends a substantial change in the way medicine will be practiced. At the same time, there are many disruptors at play in our system that will affect the way you practice, not the least of which will be applications of artificial intelligence. There's no doubt that AI has the power to make substantial and unpredictable impacts on the way medicine is practiced. To quote the noted philosopher Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And in this case, it's up to us and up to you to understand the technology and figure out how to use it responsibly for the good of patients. All of these new developments come with uncertainties, but also great opportunities for you, the next generation of doctors, to mold the future of medicine. In the face of these changes and disruptions, you'll need to hold closely to the humanism and ethical principles that lie at the heart of medicine, which you will rededicate yourselves to when we recite the Hippocratic Oath together in a little while. Going forward, we'll need doctors and researchers who can find new paths for transforming medicine and improving lives through research, education, and innovation. And this is why you came to Duke-NUS in the first place, am I right? I see some nodding. So tap on the skills and knowledge you've gained, as well as the networks you've built during your time with us. You can do this, and I know you'll do it well. As you take this next step from being students to becoming our latest batch of alumni, I hope you'll continue to find inspiration, collaboration, compassion, and the courage to try new things. I also urge you to come back to the school early and often, and to engage with the Duke-NUS Medical Alumni Group. We're always happy to see you and welcome you back. So with that, let me congratulate you and graduate you, class of 2023, and I wish you all fulfilling and rewarding careers in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. Our guest of honor, Minister Indranee Rajah, holds ministerial appointments in the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of National Development. Minister Indranee is the leader of the House for the 14th Parliament. She was a member of Parliament for the Tanjong Pagar GRC since 2001. She is a senior counsel and was a practicing lawyer before joining government. It is my honor to invite our guest of honor, Minister Indranee Rajah, to share her remarks on this auspicious day. Minister, please.
Professor Eugene Washington, Chancellor for Health Affairs, Duke University, and President and CEO, Duke University Health System. Professor Ivy Ng, Group CEO, Sing Health. Chairman and members of the Duke-NUS Governing Board, Professor Thomas Kaufman, Dean, Duke-NUS Medical School, graduates and parents, family members, and guests. It's good afternoon, or should be closer to evening, and I'm delighted to join you all today to mark this important milestone as the 89 members of the class of 2023 graduate and enter the ranks of our medical and research professions. I remember what it was like to graduate a long time ago, probably before many of the graduates today were born, but it's a very special feeling. But to these graduates, yours has been a uniquely challenging journey. While there are no pandemic restrictions for today's event, we shouldn't forget that the bulk of your medical school experience took place under unprecedented conditions. Even as the COVID-19 pandemic appears to be behind us, though, we need to continue to prepare for challenges on the horizon. And to do so will require us to triage situations well and channel our resources wisely. And we have to be proactive to ensure that we are prepared. So as doctors, you will all be familiar with the importance of triage. It ensures patients receive the appropriate care given the current resources, and it also requires a balance between optimizing for efficiency and buffering for resilience at the systems level. So let me attempt to triage several challenges on the horizon that are closely related to healthcare. And this is important because these challenges are going to take place in your time as doctors. So when you're in the wards, when you're doing your clinical work, these are the challenges that you will be facing in very real terms. But we certainly hope that you'll be able to work with the government to address these challenges, because really it's by putting our minds together and having people on the ground like yourselves that we will be able to have better outcomes. So first, the highest category in the World Health Organization's Emergency Triage Assessment and Treatment, or ETAT model, is emergency, referring to cases that demand immediate treatment. From a national perspective, the COVID-19 pandemic is an example of one such emergency. The pandemic brought about an extraordinary impact on human health, society, and the economy. Each of you experienced the impact of the pandemic firsthand, both as students and as future healthcare professionals. COVID-19 struck just 6 months after you embarked on your first year at Duke-NUS. As Dean Kaufman said, each of you had to adapt to multiple changes in health and safety regulations, including modifications to the curriculum and tests. You've all demonstrated significant resolve. When clinical wards were out of bounds and your cohort had to undertake research experiences earlier, many of you pivoted quickly and managed to make an impact through research even before being immersed in a hospital setting. And I'm also heartened that many of you rallied together to overcome the risk of social isolation, including through online interclass bonding events, check-ins by your class presidents, Michelle and Derek, and enjoying welfare care packs provided by your student council. Despite the elevated risk of being in the healthcare profession amidst a pandemic, you began your clinical training in April 2021 and persevered both in caring for your patients and in furthering your own education. So you too are our healthcare heroes. Let's hear it for them, everyone. Please give them a big hand. While Singapore weathered the COVID-19 storm relatively well, thanks to the tenacity and resilience of our healthcare system and our healthcare professionals and people, we have to be prepared for the next pandemic and the pandemics after that. The global deterioration in biodiversity will almost certainly lead to further spillovers of zoonotic pathogens, which will lead to future pandemics. It's not a question of if, but a question of when, where, and how bad. Climate change will only accelerate these trends and sharpen their impact on human health. Preparing our response to future emergencies will require marshalling our best ideas to advance creative solutions while strengthening our healthcare capabilities and responses. On the research front, I'm pleased that Duke and Duke-NUS have launched a research collaboration pilot project grant, which will nurture new collaborations between researchers in Singapore and Durham, enabling Duke-NUS to develop innovative community health interventions. On the capabilities front, the Clinician First, Clinician Plus curriculum at Duke-NUS is strengthening our pipeline of healthcare practitioners who are committed to improving healthcare delivery. Championing additional elements such as an emphasis on patient safety, quality improvement, systems thinking, and healthcare leadership will ensure that our healthcare professionals are adaptable and nimble no matter the circumstances. The next category in the WHO triage model is priority, which refers to cases that need to be prioritized for rapid assessment and treatment. We must be intentional in addressing these priority issues consistently, lest they become the emergencies of tomorrow. Aging is one such priority issue. At the Committee of Supply debate earlier this year in Parliament, I spoke about building a future that all Singaporeans can aspire to. One area that we will need to address relates to key population trends that are affecting us, both our declining total fertility rate and, on the other hand, longer life expectancies. 10 years ago, around 11% of Singapore citizens were aged 65 and above. Today, this proportion has increased to 18%, and by the end of this decade, 1 in 4, or 25%, will be aged 65 or above. This will require us to rethink society in quite a fundamental way, particularly our healthcare sector. I currently co-chair the care pillar of Forward Singapore, or Forward SG, with my parliamentary colleagues, Minister Ong Ye Kung and Minister Masagos. One of the key moves under the care pillar is a renewed focus on population health over healthcare provision. We've developed a Healthier SG strategy to shift the center of gravity of our healthcare sector from acute care to preventive care. Under Healthier SG, we want Singaporeans to think of their family clinics as the first stop for their care needs rather than hospitals. In fact, they don't have to go to hospital or for care at all if we can get them to be healthier upstream. But first stop, if they do need it, should be at the family clinics. And we want Singaporeans to work with their family doctors and community partnerships to consider how they can choose health and healthy living before they need healthcare. For the healthcare profession, doctors will be key to building relationships with your patients. This will require knowing patients well and having a good overview of their health status to develop plans for them to stay healthy. Another strategy that complements our population health approach is to transform our aged care infrastructure so that seniors can age well within their homes and communities. The aim is to delay frailty and reduce social isolation so that we can further prevent institutionalization of seniors in nursing homes and hospitals. In fact, my constituency is just opposite. Many of you probably go for lunch at the Silat area. You can see that the residents there have been aging quite rapidly over the years, and it's a matter of priority for me to make sure that they stay out of your facilities as long as possible, because that is the test, really, of having them age in place and be healthy. So that's the goal. For these strategies to succeed, we need effective implementation, robust research, and bold innovation. Duke-NUS is at the heart of this. The graduating cohort of Duke-NUS students has done meaningful work to advance our understanding and responses to aging. Gabriel Chu, who will be graduating with an MD PhD, examined the brain for clues to tackle Alzheimer's disease, which causes dementia. This is a condition expected to affect 80,000 seniors aged 60 and above in Singapore by 2030. From his research, Gabriel discovered key changes in the gene expression patterns in certain cells in the brain associated with the disease, which enables us to better understand the mechanisms underlying disease development. Besides research, another way in which new healthcare innovations can improve the lives of our seniors is through therapeutic inventions. I'm glad that Duke-NUS is preparing to nurture future generations of clinician innovators through the launch of programs like the Duke-NUS Health Innovator Program, or DHIP, an initiative spearheaded by alumni Dr. Reena Dermawan. The DHIP provides an immersive experience in innovation for third-year medical students. I hear from the Dean that this year's cohort focused on coming up with solutions to tackle women's health issues, partnering with KK Women's and Children's Hospital and other business partners. The winning team developed a device that prevents vaginal tears during childbirth. The team has filed a provisional patent and is working closely with their clinician mentor and industry mentors to plan user testing and development, which will pave the way for small batch manufacturing and clinical studies. Should this device make it to the maternity wards, I'm certain that many mothers would welcome it. I encourage the team, along with any others with good ideas, to take full advantage of resources such as innovation grants from Sing Health to translate your ideas into reality. As we venture into preventive care, we will have to tackle issues in broader settings beyond hospitals and clinics. This includes introducing interventions in the community that are not purely medical, but in the social and lifestyle dimensions. Such interventions could benefit long-term psychological outcomes of young patients at higher risk of developing stress-related disorders following pediatric intensive care unit admission, an issue that class speaker Michelle Koh published a research paper on. With the introduction of social prescribing in the first-year MD curriculum last year, I'm hopeful that Duke-NUS graduates will be well prepared to tackle issues at these new frontiers in healthcare. The lowest category in the WHO triaging model is non-urgent, which refers to cases that can wait their turn for assessment and treatment. But these are nonetheless important, and we should reserve some mind share for these issues. Non-urgent issues typically relate to the longer-term institutional building work that is necessary both to keep the system going and to make it better. Efforts on this front are oftentimes thankless and hidden. Singapore has an established tradition of taking a long-term view and investing in these non-urgent issues, and we must continue to do so, lest they do become urgent. If we think back to the genesis of Duke-NUS as Singapore's first graduate-level medical school, there may not have been an urgent need for such an institution. Nonetheless, we pressed on, and the school has since cultivated many healthcare professionals with a wide range of backgrounds, a diversity which is reflected in this graduation cohort. Cassandra Chan is a banker by training and chose to pursue medicine to tackle issues like the surging costs of healthcare, technology, and equipment. She's keen to develop solutions that creatively overcome time constraints caused by manual administrative tasks to increase face time with patients. Lo Sin Ping, who was trained in biological sciences, hopes to identify deficiencies in current therapies and develop targeted improvements in clinical management. Progress on these fronts would allow her to enhance patient care. There would be no Duke-NUS and no graduate medical school pathway in Singapore for Cassandra or Sin Ping if we did not choose to invest in the non-urgent issues of that time. My challenge to all of you today is for each of you to reserve some space to address the non-urgent issues of our day. For a start, we should continue challenging ourselves to reimagine the future of medical education and rethink how our healthcare professionals can address existing and emerging care gaps in and beyond Singapore. Ultimately, our responses to non-urgent issues of the present will set us up for the big successes of the future just like Duke-NUS. I've spoken about emergency, priority, and non-urgent issues that are likely to lie ahead of us, but triaging the future is a difficult art. The reality is that no matter how hard we triage, we will face the very human instinct of not wanting to make trade-offs. It's quite natural to want it all. While we can continue adjusting our triaging approach and assessment to ensure that the most pressing issues are taken care of, we mustn't forget the important but not yet pressing matters. It is this long-termism that will position Singapore well for the future. Forward Singapore is part of our broader effort to build a healthy and thriving society, and we will continue to partner with you and with all Singaporeans as we forge ahead. As you embark on different pathways after graduation, I have every confidence that you will contribute to the medical and scientific community, no matter what emergency, priority, or non-urgent issues come your way. You will identify opportunities to transform the practice and delivery of medicine and improve the lives of patients as future clinicians and researchers. And you will do so in the excellent company of those who have supported you thus far and will continue adding wind to your sails, including your peers, professors, families, and friends. So let me close by offering my heartiest congratulations to the class of 2023 on your graduation, and I wish you every success for a fulfilling career. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Minister. Delivering our keynote address today is Professor Ivy Ng. Professor Ivy Ng is the Group Chief Executive of the largest healthcare cluster and academic healthcare system in Singapore, with more than 30,000 staff across 11 institutions comprising 4 hospitals, 5 national specialty centres, 3 community hospitals, and 9 primary care clinics. A paediatric geneticist by training, Professor Ng is a practicing clinician and serves as a senior consultant in the Genetics Service, Department of Paediatric Medicine at KKH Hospital, and Director of the National Thalassemia Registry. Professor Ng's research interests include thalassemia, dysmorphology, and mental retardation. She has published extensively in the area of genetic counselling and thalassemia. She is a member of the boards of Duke-NUS Medical School, Singapore Management University, the National Medical Research Council, and the Human Health and Potential Committee. It is my honour and great privilege to invite Professor Ivy Ng to present today's keynote address. Professor Ng, please.
Hi, good evening, guests of honor, Minister Indrani, Chancellor, Prof. Jean Washington, Chairman, Mr. Goh Yulin, Duke-NUS fellow governing board members, especially Director General Health, Prof. Kenneth Mark, thank you for joining us. Dean Tom Kaufman, Deans, faculty, class of 23, family members, loved ones, distinguished guests, friends, and colleagues. Let me start off by saying a very, very hearty congratulations to the class of 23. You know, this is one dream you had a couple of years ago, and you've done it. You've gone through, a grueling medical school curriculum. And as Dean says, you've met all the criteria. And now the health system is eager to welcome you into the health system. A bit too eager, right? Can I say that, all the rumors you heard about housemanship are all true? And if you think you're leaving the hardest part of your life behind you, what can I say? You know, I just wanted to say, keep calm, enjoy today, and survive housemanship. The school's mantra is clinician first. And I want to say that all of us, in the first couple of front rows, we all remember our housemanship well. And we all came out of housemanship much better doctors than we were at our graduation, because it's the time you really hone your clinical skills. So embrace it, lose some sleep happily, and it'll end in 1 year, okay? And then life starts. Because then we talk about Clinician Plus. And you've been preparing for this, and there are so many possibilities now for you. You can be a master clinician, a scientist, an educator, administrator, innovator, medical informatician. Now's the time you think, what does making an impact mean to you? And which path do you want to take? You started med school with a dream, and now you've reached your first major milestone, which is graduation. What does a transformed healthcare system mean to you in the next step? We talk about keeping well, getting well, living well for our population. How do we exactly do this? So many challenges, so many unanswered questions. All I can say is dream big. Martin Luther King, American civil rights activist and Baptist minister, gave this famous speech, called the I Have a Dream speech in 1963 on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. He said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In 1964, he was the youngest at that time to be given the honor of the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to end social segregation and racial discrimination. We know it's still a work in progress, but he lived his life well, pursuing a worthy dream. I'm going to share with you very briefly, my personal dream, and then an organizational dream, and then a national dream, and how dreams help you to keep going and pursuing a goal that may seem impossible. As a young specialist, you usually get to do, the maybe less popular work in the department. And that's what happened to me. The thalassemia clinic was full of thalassemia major patients who come in every 3 or 4 weeks for transfusions. And at that time, a major healthcare burden, commonest genetic disease in Singapore, so not surprising. And it was sad because optimal treatment at that time was out of reach for most patients. Iron chelating drugs were not subsidized. It was very expensive. There was a great healthcare burden. I'd take care of these patients, get to know them, and then they died in their teens. It was just heartbreaking. So I had a dream. Do you think we can have optimal treatment for every patient with thalassemia? But there were many steps that had to be dealt with before we could do this. We had to control the burden of disease. We had to launch a population screening program, a very directed, extended family screening program. We had to look at the molecular basis of thalassemia, local spectrum, create, a DNA test that was cost-effective, set up a whole counseling system. We even started a philanthropic fund to help pay for optimal treatment, and of course, continue to engage with the ministry to put it on the subsidized list. But it was a many year piece of work. But, motivated by the dream. So, I laugh at this picture because you can see a very young me, and I bet you can't even pick me out, but so young and with no ponytail and short hair. But that was the dream team. And we didn't see results for the first 10 years. It was just looking, going through a long list of things we needed to do. And setting up the first DNA lab, actually, in SGH. And this Thal registry was on the second floor of Boyer Block, right? So I just wanted to say, it was a long, hard journey, but after more than 20 years, we've done it all. Thal major patients, some of them still keep in touch. They're married, have kids. There's 2 who run marathons, okay, so they became healthier than all of us in this picture. It's really a condition now that is well handled. I just want to say that all these things have multiple steps, multi-pronged efforts that are needed before you see results. But it's having that dream. And now in medicine, there are still so many gaps that we need to address, that need to be delved into, that needs one of you to believe in it, put a team together, and do everything that it takes to improve the situation. We had an organizational dream. So that's our AMC, Duke-NUS together with Sing Health. I remember we came together at our first retreat and we drew this triangle. We said, simple. We want to create an AMC that's focused on improving patients' lives. And we're going to do it by developing 3 pillars: excellent clinical care, education, that's all of you graduating, and innovating and doing research to advance. And with that, we're going to define tomorrow's medicine. And we started off dreaming of becoming a global leading AMC that would improve the lives of our patients. So you can see here, the first Duke-NUS was formed first by the agreement that was signed between Duke and NUS, and this was done in 2005. And then we had to come together as partners to work towards this dream. It was only in 2014 that we inked an MOU between Sing Health and Duke-NUS. And it's a virtual entity because Duke-NUS is an organization independent under the Ministry of Education, and Sing Health is under the Ministry of Health. But we wanted to come together in a powerful, palpable partnership to do all that we needed to do. So you can see here the timeline. It's very complicated because there were many boxes to check to get this going. But the first agreement in 2005, the first batch of pioneering graduates was in 2011, right there. So all of you, you are the 12th batch. And I know there are some pioneer graduates in the audience now who are faculty. I'm not going to embarrass them by asking them to stand, but that's it. It's a beautiful circle, right, of training and then training others, right, and contributing into the system. And now, you can see in 2022, we've got many joint structures. ACPs, SDDCs, joint research institutes. And was our dream unattainable? Not really, because in the last 4 years, we've been ranked in the top 10 best hospitals list in the world and the top in Asia. We still want to do better than that, right? Why not top 5 and why not top 3? But, that's what all of you are going to get us to. Our nation dreams big. Minister Indrani spoke about healthier SG. We will be the first nation that has this. It's a mind-blowing endeavor. Yes, we love the residents around SGH campus to stay chatting in the coffee shop and not coming to our hospitals. But it's a huge endeavor with multi-layers to it. Getting the GPs involved, getting the residents enrolled, working this whole complex piece together. Hardest one, I think, is convincing people to live healthy lives. Again, I won't embarrass anyone by saying how many of you ate a healthy dinner last night, but knowledge doesn't translate into actions. So I think it's a huge endeavor. We have to do what it takes, but we're aiming towards healthier SG. So what's your personal dream? And how do you find it? Maybe your dream was to graduate medical school, and now you've done it. So does that mean that's the dream? No, you've got to find that new dream. And you find that many times, in fact, I think many of you already have that. You know where your place is in the whole community in medicine. But you need to have this constructive discontent, right? Discontent because you must never be satisfied with what is happening now. Find the gaps, find the areas that we can do better in. But important that it's constructive. Be the solution. Don't just find gaps, but be the solution. And there are so many areas. Do diabetic patients really need to have amputations? Do we really need to have junior doctors who get burnout? Can the ward rounds be shorter? All these things that can be better. And maybe you can help us, make it better. I want to say that even as you think of this dream, remember, one of our pioneer leaders in Singapore, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, said in his last speech in 1984, he said, regard the present condition not as a pinnacle of achievement, but as a base from which to scale new heights. So that's what I challenge all of you today. Just 4 attributes, the A, B, C, D, so you can remember it well. The first thing, be adaptable. In medical school, sometimes you knew what would happen the next month, the curriculum and all. But I think COVID-19 taught us that you can never be sure. So even in medical school, you weren't sure if you were going to learn online or in class. To the health system, it was a complete crisis mode. It totally changed the way we did things. But, we adapted. And, if you look at the number of research publications we had, we hit a record high during the COVID period. So we adapted. We did things differently. We had new areas that were gaps in knowledge, and we took the chance to look at these and study them. The second area I want you to be adaptable in is in your career. There are so many twists and turns in a career. Doors of opportunity that open up that you never anticipated, areas that you suddenly serendipitously were thrust into. Like, I shared my story. I didn't choose to run the thalassemia clinics, but I was sent there, and that was a wonderful opportunity for me to dig deeper, dream the big dream. So keep looking out for these opportunities. Be brave. Be bold and courageous to go into uncharted waters. Today we celebrate your major milestone, but there's still so much more to learn and so much more we need to improve in medicine. We need a better understanding of diseases, more accurate diagnosis, more personalized medicine, better care, better outcomes. So be brave and venture out ready to learn more and to make a difference. C is for compassionate. It's critical that you have the right motivation in medicine. The compassion for patients during the crisis of their lives. You will see them every day. Keep it alive, the empathy, the compassion for them, for their loved ones, for your colleagues. And I just want to say, for yourself as well. So find that balance. It's critical that even as you start your career, you don't just think about everybody else, but not yourself. So can I say it's important that you have compassion to yourself. Learn how to balance, learn to take these short breaks and longer breaks, learn to disconnect when it's time to disconnect. And then you will sustain through a very challenging career. Keep the motivation as well, not just for the patients who do well, you feel compassion for them, but I would say feel compassion even more for the patients who don't do well, the ones who didn't respond to the medication, the ones that we didn't predict would have these complications, and put faces to them because they will motivate you to look for new answers, to deepen knowledge in different areas. And the last point, determined. You have to be determined. Persevere despite difficulties, failure, and obstacles. One of the names that come to mind when you talk about determination is Winston Churchill. I'm sure all of you know, he's said to be the greatest leader, prime minister in Britain at that time through World War II. But one of the most riveting things in his biography spoke about a mega epic failure in the Dardanelles campaign, right? He made a bad decision, wrong strategy, massive failure, loss of many ships, loss of lives. Because of this, he was demoted and asked to leave the Admiralty, right? Nobody remembers that story, when we say his name first. Because after that terrible failure, he persisted. He bounced back. He learned from the failure. And as you all know, he became the Prime Minister of Britain. He led them through World War II, led Britain to victory. And it was because he persisted. Epic failure, learn from it, persevere, move on to greater things. You know, it was said he was asked to give a speech to his old school. And this is his speech. You know, the whole school was there, more people than there is in this auditorium today. And he stood up and he said, "Young men, never give up, never give up, never give up." And then he sat down. And I'm sure you all, you know, they, like you, will remember this speech. And I've said a little bit too much more than his short few second speech. You know, they sometimes called him a bulldog. And there's a nice picture of him there. And sometimes people say it's because of, you know, his physical appearance. But I think it's far more because of his bulldogged determination. And do you know why, you know, the adjective bulldogged is before determination? You know, nobody wants to be bitten by a bulldog, right? It's a horrible, they have apparently their bite is one of the most powerful bites. But more than that, they hold on for the longest time. And why is that? Because their noses slant backwards, okay? So they can breathe while they bite. You know? So they don't have to let go. They continue breathing and they bite. So that's persistence and determination for you. Bite into your dream. Don't give up. You know, find your dream. Remember the A, B, C, D. And if you forget everything else, remember the bulldog and never give up. And together, we will define tomorrow's medicine. Let me congratulate all of you again and, you know, wish all of you a long and deeply fulfilling career in medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ng. I'm delighted now to invite our alumnus from the class of 2022, Dr. Nurul Ain Binti Rajab, to come forward to present the graduating class and their ceremonial hoodies. Dr. Ain, please.
Thank you, Professor Karan. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very honored to be invited here today to present the graduating class of 2023. Today marks the graduation of our 9th cohort of MD, PhD, and PhDs who joined the 13th cohort of MD class in this hooding ceremony. May I first invite Professor Pierce Chow up on stage to hood the first cohort of graduates from the PhD program in Clinical and Translational Sciences. Professor Chow, please. I would also like to invite our guest of honor, Minister Indranee Rajah, to present the scrolls and Dean Kaufman to present the certificate holders. Minister and Dean, please join us on stage. Today, we graduate the first cohort of students from the PhD program in Clinical and Translational Sciences. Accompanying them to hood with Prof. Chow will be their supervisors and mentors. Chong Junhua and Professor Derek Hosenloy. Deng Xiao and Professor Louis Tan. Liu Yu Chi and Professor Jodhbir Mehta. Natalia Poporato and Professor Ong Tin. Thank you, Professor Chow. It is my pleasure to invite Senior Associate Dean Silke Vogel up on stage now to commence with the PhD holding for the programs in Quantitative Biology and Medicine and Integrated Biology and Medicine. It is my honor to present the PhD graduates with their research supervisors and ceremonial holders. Chow Yi-chun and Professor Steve Rosen. Wu Yang and Professor Steve Rosen. Yu Xiao and Assistant Professor Lisa Tucker-Kellogg. Serena Je Wen Heng and Assistant Professor Lisa Tucker Kellogg. Lim Mei Chi and Associate Professor Koji Itahana. Lin Mei Yin and Associate Professor Koji Itahana. Tan Sui Jolene and Professor Tan Eng King. Professors. Moving on, we will now invite Associate Professor Lai Xiang Hui and Assistant Professor Suzanne Goh to join us on stage for the ceremonial hooding of our MD class. It gives me great pleasure to now invite them both up on stage. Chan Chia Chun Ebenezer. Teresa Chen. Chen Zhengyong. Chia Wen Chong. Joelle Chin Lee Chi.